Could you introduce yourself and Meridio?
My name is Mohammed. I work at Consensus and I lead one of our spokes called Project Meridio. Meridio basically allows you to create fractional ownership of real estate, turn it into basically digital shares, and investors can invest in it.
Are the property's digital shares tokenized?
Yeah, so each property has its own unique token. That token can then be listed on the Meridio platform, and individual investors who want to own a piece of that property can buy these tokens. These are tokens that follow the uniform standard, so they're very similar to ERC20 tokens, but they also have very real estate specific standards as well.
Who will use the Meridio platform and how will they use it?
So there are two sort of users that we see in early days on the Meridio platform. The first would be someone who owns a property. So imagine you own a property, you believe that you want to sell maybe 10% of it, maybe you can sell 30% of it, but now you go online, go to the Meridio platform, you sign up and list your property. Then we go through the proper legal registration to create that property and turn that property into basically these digital shares or tokens. Those tokens are again listed on that platform, and investors who have access can now invest in that platform. The second type of user would be an investor. So if you're an investor who wants to maybe own a piece of the coffee shop in your neighborhood, maybe own a piece of the office that you work at, you would log onto your platform, allocate money or funds into your portfolio, and then take those funds and go out and have fun shopping for real estate.
So users manage the properties. How is the governance of the properties done?
So the governance of properties is a very important part of the process for Meridio. An individual asset that would be listed would have very similar governance rights that exist today. So for example, you would be as an investor entitled to receive dividends that are issued from that property. Perhaps you may be able to vote on whether the property manager or the asset owner is doing a renovation in the building. Maybe they're building additional units. Maybe they're adding a restaurant. So governance can vary from property to property, but at the very minimum, you'll be able to access the dividend associated with that asset.
Will each decision require voting to reach a quorum? Could each property be similar to a DAO?
It could be. So down the road, when we look at governance, we can explore various different models. We can constitute something where you need to achieve a quorum in order to maybe paint the building red, perhaps, or add a restaurant on the bottom floor. Those are all interesting things we can move towards. In early days, obviously, we'll start very conservative, so you'll have access to just the income that's generated by that asset, and if that asset was to be sold in the future, you get all of the proceeds associated with the sale of that asset as well.
How do you put the title and the deed on chain?
Yeah, so over time, we will incorporate the title and the deed on chain as well. One of the projects that we worked on as the founding team of Meridio was basically putting titles on blockchain. That project was delivered to a government entity, which we're excited about, incorporating here in the US as well.
What is next for Meridio?
So things that really would have an impact on the Meridio platform would be obviously really good assets on the platform, investors on the platform, and then having the proper support both from a public perspective, so things like regulation that allow for these shares or digital tokens to basically represent ownership of assets. So we're excited. We're really excited to see what the government is looking to say, what regulatory bodies are looking to say about these security tokens, but we feel very confident that these aren't anything new. These are basically digital shares that give you very similar governance rights as you would have if you owned a piece of a property today in a form of a REIT or a real estate investment trust.